Hello. So, a few months ago, I made these pants, and I attempted to document the process of making said pants, but it didn't go very well. Namely, I got to the very end of actually constructing the pants after I had put together all of the patchwork, and I just powered through and didn't record any of the actual sewing of the pattern, of making them pants. So, I wanted to make another pair with a different style of patchwork and different colors. Specifically, I wanted a darker pair because this pair is very light in color. So I wanted something a little darker, especially in winter, because I tend to like darker clothes in winter. So I got to making a pair of these pants out of dark fabric. So you were seeing me right now cutting up all of the fabric. I trimmed up the edges because they were a little frayed, and I tried to get 4 pieces out of each piece of fabric. Some of them I only got 3. But all of these fabrics, except for one, except for one, all of the rest of them are vintage, antique, secondhand. I got them at an estate sale from, I believe it was from the estate of a quilter, because all of it is like cotton quilting fabric. I decided for making these pants, I wanted to make it right, correctly, long lasting. So I decided to French seam most everything. We'll get there. Uh, that plan did not come to fruition, but we'll get there. So after I cut all of the pieces that I was going to use, I started laying them out to try and figure out like a configuration of them and a layout and how many panels I needed to make for each piece of this pattern. Spoiler alert, it was not enough. It was not enough. So once I had laid out all of the pieces, I started to sew together the individual strips. Again, French seaming them. So I sewed them wrong sides together, about said right sides, that'd be wrong. I sewed them wrong sides together. I pinked every single seam. And then I flipped them right sides together and ran a regular normal stitch to make them a French seam. I did that. And then I took those individual panels and I put them together again, French seaming them. Dear viewer, deciding to do all French seams was a mistake, but we'll get there. And once I had all of them put together for their individual panels of fabric that I was going to cut the patterns out of, gee, wouldn't you find it so ironic and hilarious that the panels of fabric were not wide enough?
Are you serious?
Not a single panel of fabric was wide enough. So I had to go back in and do a fourth strip on each of the panels. So I didn't bother to record that because rinse and repeat, it's the same thing I just did. So you may have noticed in the placing of the fabric to try and figure out how much I needed, that I placed this little extra bit over like the crotch section of the pants pattern because I was like, I'm not gonna do an entire another panel, another strip in this piece of fabric I'm creating just to have like 2 inches of it on the pattern. No, no, we're not doing that. We're not wasting fabric. We have a visitor. Sir, do you have things to say? Thank you. Yeah, I ended up having to just cut those pieces off because the fabric is, again, it's like vintage. It's also cotton, so it literally was just ripping apart instead of the seam ripping. The polyester thread was stronger than the fabric, which, hmm, it is what it is. This is ripping the fabric. This is Look at that. Look at that. You see that? See this little rip? Oh my god. New plan. I'm gonna have to just cut it off. Because if I try to seam rip this off, it's just gonna rip the fabric. Sewing is so fun. It's such a great hobby. I'll have to also trim down the other pieces on this strip. And there we go. It's free. Now I'll have to put together another new strip and just do 4 strips for each fabric piece of the pattern instead of trying to piece on the crotch bit, because clearly that didn't work. Yeah, the panels of fabric were not wide enough still, so I'll let this speak for itself. I'm gonna lose my shit. Here are my nice panels of fabric that I just finished ironing after I added on the 4th strip, because the 3 in the crotch bit didn't work, so I had to do a full 4th strip. Okay. Here's one piece of fabric. The back piece of the pattern. What is this? Why is this? Do you see this? Do you see this? Do you see how there's the fabric ends here? And the pattern is here. So what this means is I now have to do a 5th strip on every single piece of fabric. So, luckily, the front pieces of the pattern were actually, like, the fabric for that was actually wide enough, so I went ahead and marked those out, cut them out. I did decide for this pair of patchwork pants to not include the pockets that this pattern actually has, so that's where I just kind of connected the dots where there's like the little cutout for the pocket, because at this point in the process, I was so done. So done. I was so done. I wanted these pants to be finished. I didn't want to have to do anything else with them other than construct them. Which is where, when it came to adding the additional fabric for the back panels of this pattern, I will freely admit I did not French those seams. I added on just enough fabric to be able to do that last little bit of pattern, and I did not French seam it. I just did a regular seam. I did pink it. So at this point, finally, I was able to mark out and cut out the back pieces of the pattern and get to constructing it. So that is what I did. I followed the pattern. I did the front center seam, the back center seam, side seams, and the inseam. And then I slapped some hems on them bad boys after I trimmed up the legs because they were uneven lengths, so I did trim them up nice and even. And then I rolled down the hem, I rolled down the waistband, pinned that in place, rolled up the hems of the pants, pinned those in place, sewed everything down, and then I took a length of elastic, threaded it through that bad boy of a waistband, and sewed that up, and voila! The pants were finally done! And so now, it is time for the reveal. Ooh, wow, look at those pants. Such cool pants. Wow. Those are some patchwork pants. Look at the back. Look at this side. Wow, look at all those patterns. Cool pants. So I decided to put together some outfits to go with these pants because they are quite the statement pants. So the first outfit is kind of casual, just a little striped t-shirt, a long dark red cardigan just for a little extra coziness, and some red canvas sneakers. And the second look is a bit more dressy with this black and white button up with these big poofy sleeves and a dark red sweater vest, and then some black, like leather type shoes. It's pants! It's pants! Hooray! They're finished! Yay! They were entirely too much work. Every time I do a patchwork project, I am always left thinking, that was too much work, I'll never do it again. And then inevitably, I want to make another patchwork project. Because these pants were a headache. And yet here I am, having made another pair. So yes, the pants. I have a pair of pants. I have a second pair of patchwork pants. Hooray. I have decided that if I feel the need, these ones need pockets, I'll add some like patch pockets onto the butt. But for now, we're just going standard women's clothes of not having pockets. So anyway, I hoped you enjoyed this little journey to make these pants a reality. Thank you, dear viewer, for hanging out and watching. I don't know how to end a video.